Coming up, the Grizzlies mount a massive Game 3 comeback, and the Warriors continue to cruise. This is Locked On Now NBA.
The biggest games, the best performances, expert analysis. You are Locked On Now.
Welcome in. You're listening to Locked On Now NBA, local experts with the biggest stories on the hardwood. I'm your host, Kainani Stevens. Thank you for making Locked On Now your first listen every single weekday. We've got our Locked On NBA hosts here to recap all of the playoff action from Thursday. We're going to start off with a 26-point comeback win for the Grizzlies in our biggest game.
The biggest game.
An absolutely stunning come-from-behind victory in Game 3 for Memphis was the definition of playoff basketball. Locked On Grizzlies breaks down the no-quit attitude that Memphis has embodied to get the job done.
Never count out the Memphis Grizzlies. Sean Coleman here with the Locked On Grizzlies podcast in a game where the Grizzlies arguably had their worst offensive performance through three quarters of the season, down 26 at one point in the first half. 15-0 run cut it to 7 at halftime. The Grizzlies were down as much as 20 in the second half, but went on a 21-0 run in the fourth quarter to be able to grab and keep the lead in a 104-95 victory over the Minnesota Timberwolves. A history-making performance. Only the 8th time in NBA history a team has been down by 16 or more points to start the fourth quarter to come back and win an NBA playoff game. Only the 6th time a team has outscored their opponent by 25 or more points in the fourth quarter. A history-making performance and what could be a deep run in the playoffs, defining moment for the Grizzlies as well. The Grizzlies, for much of the game, struggled against a team that they've struggled with all season. But in the fourth quarter, the Grizzlies perhaps put together the best example so far this year that they've done of reminding people just how special this roster could be against any opponent at any time. This team is truly capable of taking a game over and putting it to rest for good. A 104-95 victory. In the grand scheme of things, this is Game 3 of the first round of the playoffs. The Grizzlies are up 2-1. They need to take this momentum into Saturday night to win Game 4. But as of tonight, never count out the Memphis Grizzlies. If you were switching sides, stay on that side because we're consistently running up that chimney and we are ducking no smoke. Go Grizzlies! We'll have much more for you on the postgame edition of the Locked On Grizzlies podcast.
On the other hand, it was a heartbreaker for Minnesota, who just completely fell apart down the stretch. Locked On Wolves tries to make sense of how many could blow such a massive lead.
This is Ben Beeke with Locked On Wolves. I'm not sure. I mean, I do know what we just watched. It was a Timberwolves collapse of unbelievably epic proportions. 26-point lead in the second quarter. Memphis had 21 points midway through the second, all given back, up by just 7 at halftime, almost all given back. Timberwolves build another 20-point lead late in the third quarter, up 16 at the start of the fourth. They're outscored in the fourth quarter 37-12. Memphis closes the game on a 50-16 run. At one point, a 37-9 run within that. Karl-Anthony Towns, if you thought he played poorly last Tuesday in the playing game against the Clippers, I don't know if it was as much him playing poorly as him being invisible in this game. 8 points, 5 rebounds. He did have 5 blocks, held down the paint early. Everyone played well in the first quarter for Minnesota. He had 4 turnovers, 5 personal fouls, could not keep his cool. D'Angelo Russell turned into a gunner after a big first quarter, couldn't make shots. Patrick Beverley, the Timberwolves had a plan to send him at Ja Morant in isolation because Ja Morant's not a good one-on-one defender. It worked early, did not work late in this game as the lead slipped away. Chris Finch called just one timeout in the fourth quarter as the Timberwolves completely and utterly collapsed. There's nothing else we can say about this. We're going to try and talk about it on the postgame podcast tonight. Make sure to subscribe to Locked On Wolves for all things Timberwolves.
No Luka, no problem for Dallas. Jalen Brunson playing hero in Game 3 of their series. Locked On Mavericks breaks down Dallas's win and how they now have a 2-1 series lead.
The Dallas Mavericks get a win in Utah to go up 2-1 on the Utah Jazz in their playoff series. Nick Engstead from the Locked On Mavericks podcast here. No Luka, No problem for the Dallas Mavericks. Spencer Dinwiddie, 20 points, 6 assists, and all of them were huge, including a couple of huge buckets down the stretch to give the Mavericks the win. Jalen Brunson, 31 points. The biggest thing about this series so far to me, Jalen Brunson has thoroughly outplayed Donovan Mitchell through 3 games. It has been absolutely wild to see how good Jalen Brunson has been in this series. Every time the ball is in his hands, you feel like it's going to go in the basket. You feel like something good is going to happen. You feel like the Jazz are on their toes trying to figure out what to do on defense. Interesting wrinkle in this game. The Jazz did go small. Gobert and Whiteside have played, at least one of them have played every single minute this series. And in the end of the third quarter, the Jazz took out Gobert and Whiteside to put in Eric Paschall to go small, and they found some success. Then down the stretch, put Gobert back in, and the Mavericks end up winning the game. Something to look at for the rest of this series. We'll talk about it more on tonight's Locked On Mavs.
The Warriors continue to cruise in their first round series. They even got a vintage defensive performance out of Draymond Green. Locked On Warriors breaks down the team that is clicking on all cylinders.
Cyrus Sauce is here with your Locked On Now Warriors recap. The Warriors take a commanding 3-0 lead over the Denver Nuggets after an impressive road victory. The final score 118-113 for the third game in a row in this series, by the way, courtesy of our longtime sponsor, BetOnline. The Warriors covered the spread, always indicative of a dominant team. And the story of this game has been the story of the series, the triumvirate of Stephen Curry, the Jordan Poole party, and Klay Thompson thriving. Jordan Poole especially had a staggering night from a shooting perspective. Jordan Poole finished the game with 27 points on 9 of 13 shooting and 3 for 5 from beyond the arc. Klay Thompson right behind him, 26 points on 10 for 18 shooting, 6 of 13 from beyond the arc. And Stephen Curry, in his new role coming off the bench, scored 27 points, tying Jordan Poole for the team's leaders on the night. He went only 3 for 9, only by his standards, from 3, but did finish 9 of 17 from the field, including a huge bucket near the end that sealed the deal. The Warriors, again, now lead the series 3-0. They look to close it out Sunday night. I'll give you all the details on Locked On Warriors tomorrow. Follow Locked On Warriors on Twitter at Locked On Dubs. Follow me on Twitter at DogSurfRoadshow. Again, the final score, 118-113. The Golden State Warriors defeat the Denver Nuggets on the road to take a 3-0 lead in their first round series.
That's going to do it for this edition of Locked On Now NBA. Thank you for making Locked On Now your first listen every single weekday. Make sure you check out Locked On NBA and your team's Locked On podcast. I'm Kainani Stevens. This has been Locked On Now.